Can you believe there were prehistoric men who had heavier brains than us modern humans? Imagine the primitive caveman being fashion conscious, tailoring their own clothing, creating cave paintings. Yes, we are talking about the Cro-Magnons, the early European Homo sapiens who had that unique sense of identity. Life of early humans were exceedingly difficult. Whenever we imagine them, it's silence, darkness, survival. But 45,000 years ago, inside caves across Ice Age Europe, humans were already telling stories. They painted, they healed the sick, they dressed with intention, they buried their dead with meaning. They were called the Cro-Magnons. They were not primitive, they were us. In fact, Cro-Magnons were among the earliest anatomically modern humans to live in Europe. They appeared around 45,000 years ago during one of the harshest climates the planet has ever known. Physically, they were tall, robust, strong, with brains as large as or sometimes larger than our own. They lived alongside Neanderthals for thousands of years. But what set Cro Magnons apart were not the strength, it was their behavior. The tools became finer, the lives became symbolic, and the minds abstract. This was a cognitive shift, a quiet revolution. Cro-Magnons did not simply wear the animal skins, they tailored them. Bone needles with threaded eyes tell us hides were cut, shaped, and stitched, designed to fit the body. This mattered. In Ice Age Europe, clothing meant survival, but it also meant a sense of identity. They adorn themselves with shells carried from distant coasts, animal teeth, ivory beads, red ochre rubbed into skin and fabric. These were not random decorations, they were signals. The signals of belonging, of age, of status. Fashion, long before civilization, were already a human mode of communication. It was a human language indeed. Perhaps the most extraordinary evidence of Cro Magnon's life comes from their bones. Archaeologists have found skeletons with crushed limbs, even head trauma, and severe fractures. But they healed, which means someone fed them, someone protected them, cared for them for weeks and even sometimes months. And this is not just instinct, it cannot be. This is empathy. Some skulls show signs of trepanation, deliberate holes cut into the head, which was a very risky medical procedure performed with stone tools, and some patients survived as well. Cro Magnon medicine is not written, but it was practiced, it was remembered and taught. Knowledge passed hand to hand, generation to generation. Cro-Magnons were not reckless hunters, they were planners. They hunted mammoths, bison, and reindeer using group coordination, traps, and terrain. They understood seasons, migration, storage. Their diet was also varied, from meat to fish, wild grains, roots, and even fruits had a place in them. And this was not a chance. It was observation, experimentation, and adaptation. In other words, early science. That is very, very crucial here. Then there was art as well. Deep inside caves, far from living spaces, they painted. Yes, horses in motion, bison mid charge, lions, mammoths, hands pressed against stone. They used charcoal, they used ochre, minerals ground into pigments. They shaped images using the curves of the cave walls, creating depth, movement, and life. These were not decorations, they were memories. They were beliefs and teaching, the first known attempt to make their thoughts permanent. This is where imagination left the mind and entered the physical world. Cro-Magnons buried their dead with tools, with ornaments, with red ochre, the color of blood and life. They remembered individuals, they honored them, they believed death was not the end of meaning. Society had rules, rituals, memory. Human culture was fully awake. Cro Magnons were not halfway to being human, they had already arrived. They thought symbolically, they cared deeply, they created beauty even in the dark caves. Every story we tell, every image we make, every life we care for, it began here, in the caves, with fire and with their imagination.